Amongst most peoples, the serpent plays an extraordinarily important and extremely diverse role as a symbolic animal. The primary characteristics that gave the serpent its symbolic significance were the special place it occupies in the animal kingdom, its cold, slick, and shiny exterior, its poisonous bite, and its venom that can be used for medicinal purposes, as well as its periodic shedding of its skin. It is frequently encountered as a chthonic being, as an adversary of man, as a protector of sacred precincts or of the underworld, as an animal having the soul of a human, as a sexual symbol, masculine because of its phallic shape, feminine because of its engulfing belly, and because of its shedding as a symbol of constant power of renewal. But the symbolic significance of the serpent goes much further back than the Bible that Westerners know today. Suffice it to say that of all the animals revered in ancient human societies, none were as prominent or as important as the snake. The snake was the logo of a group which had become very influential in early human societies of both hemispheres. In fact, it is perhaps the oldest secret society on planet Earth, spanning back hundreds of thousands of years. William Bramley provides a rather concise recount of this ancient secret society. The group was a disciplined brotherhood dedicated to the dissemination of spiritual knowledge and the attainment of spiritual freedom. The Brotherhood of the Snake opposed the enslavement of spiritual beings, and according to Egyptian writings, it sought to liberate the human race from custodial bondage. The Brotherhood also imparted scientific knowledge and encouraged the high aesthetics that existed in many ancient societies. These and other reasons, the snake had become a venerated symbol to humans and, according to Egyptian and biblical texts, an object of custodial hatred. When we look to discover who founded the Brotherhood, Mesopotamian texts point right back to that rebellious god, Prince Enki. Ancient Mesopotamian tablets relate that Enki and his father Anu possessed profound ethical and spiritual knowledge. This was the same knowledge that was later symbolized as trees in the biblical Adam and Eve story. In fact, the biblical tree symbol came from pre-biblical Mesopotamian works, such as one showing a snake wrapped around the trunk of a tree, identical to later portrayals of the snake in Eden. From the tree in the Mesopotamian depiction hang two pieces of fruit. To the right of the tree is the half-moon symbol of Enki. To the left is the planet symbol of Anu. The drawing indicates that Ea and Anu were associated with the snake and its teachings. This connection is affirmed by other Mesopotamian texts which describe Anu's palace in the heavens as being guarded by a god of the tree of truth and a god of the tree of life. In one instance, Enki reportedly sent a human to be educated in that very knowledge. Adapa, the name of early man, thou art going before Anu the king. The road to heaven thou wilt take. When to heaven thou hast ascended, and hast approached the gate of Anu, the bearer of life and the grower of truth at the gate of Anu will be standing. We therefore find Enki designated as the reputed culprit who tried to teach early man the way to spiritual freedom. This suggests that Enki intended his creation, Homo sapiens, to be suited for earth labor, but at some point he changed his mind about using spiritual enslavement as a means. If Enki was a true historical personality as the Sumerians claimed, then he was the probable leader of the Brotherhood at its founding on Earth. The Brotherhood may have adopted the snake as its logo because Enki's first home on Earth was said to have been constructed next to a serpent-infested swampland which Enki called Snake Marsh. Another possible explanation for the snake logo is offered by Zechariah Sitchin, who says that the biblical word for snake is nahash, which comes from the root word nhsh, meaning to decipher, to find out. Despite all of their reported good intentions, the legendary Enki and early Brotherhood clearly failed to free the human race. Ancient Mesopotamian, Egyptian, and biblical texts relate that the snake was quickly defeated by other custodial factions. The Bible informs us that the serpent in the Garden of Eden was overcome before it was able to complete its mission and give Adam and Eve the fruit from the second tree. Enki, who was also symbolized as a snake, was banished to earth and was extensively villainized by his opponents to ensure that he could never again secure a widespread following among human beings. Enki's title was changed from Prince of Earth to Prince of Darkness. He was labeled other horrible epithets: Satan, the devil, evil incarnate, monarch of hell, lord of vermin, prince of liars, and more. He was portrayed as the mortal enemy of a supreme being and as the keeper of hell. People were taught that his only intentions were to spiritually enslave everyone and that everything bad on earth was caused by him. Humans were encouraged to detect him in all of his future lives or incarnations and to destroy him and his creations whenever he was discovered. All beliefs and practices named after his various appellations, Satanism, devil worship, etc., were to be made so horrific and degrading that no right-thinking person would or should have anything to do with them. He and his followers were to be viewed by human beings with nothing but the utmost loathing. This is not to say that Enki was actually portrayed by ancient Sumerians as a saint. He was not. He was described in Mesopotamian texts with distinct character flaws. Enki was a genius who could get things done, but who was often careless about anticipating the consequences of how he went about accomplishing his goals. By engineering a work race, Enki wound up giving his enemies a powerful tool of spiritual repression. Enki then appears to have compounded the blunder by founding and or empowering the early Snake Brotherhood, which, after its reported defeat, continued to remain a powerful force in human affairs, but under the domination of the very custodial factions that Enki and the original Brotherhood were said to have opposed. History indicates that the Brotherhood was turned under its new custodial gods into a chilling weapon of spiritual repression and betrayal, despite the efforts of many sincere humanitarians to bring about true spiritual reform through Brotherhood channels all the way up until today. By reportedly creating a work race and the Brotherhood of the Snake, Enki had helped build a trap for billions of spiritual beings on Earth. The Brotherhood of the Snake has been the world's most effective tool for preserving mankind's status as a spiritually ignorant creature of toil throughout all of history. Perhaps the most paradoxical of lessons is that our God, in a physical sense, Enki, is the one who we today call the devil, whereas our oppressor, the one who has been dead set against the advancement of mankind, the one who literally regarded us as a disposable piece of trash, is the one we now worship as our God, Enlil, the primary Jehovah/Yahweh of the Old Testament. In modern times, when it comes to the symbol of the snake, most people in the Western Hemisphere are influenced through the lens of religion and church and not actual history. The book of Genesis tells how a clever talking serpent convinces Eve to eat forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge. She gives the fruit also to Adam. Angry, God casts them out of the Garden of Eden and condemns the serpent to travel upon its belly. The appearance of the biblical serpent is controversial. Genesis does not give an exact description. Some illustrations of the serpent in Eden depict a reptilian humanoid being. The serpent talks to Eve and exhibits intelligence and wile. In some other Jewish legends, the Genesis serpent is a tall, extremely intelligent creature with human arms and legs. He was created by God to be the king of all creatures and eat the same foods as humans. But his envy of humans, which was the evil within him, caused him to bring about the fall. It is extremely important to understand that Genesis does not equate the serpent with the devil or Satan. The associations were made by later early church fathers, such as Justin Martyr and Tertullian. The serpent later symbolized lies, treachery, and evil, serving as the inspiration for the forked tongue and serpent-tailed representations of the devil. In Christian art and literature, the devil took on snake-like and reptilian features, such as scaly skin, a forked tongue, and a long tail. Dragons also became symbols of evil and the devil. But at the opposite end, the highest-ranking order of angels, the seraphim, have serpent associations. Their name is thought to be derived from the Hebrew verb seraph, which means to burn, incinerate, or destroy, and probably refers to the ability of the seraphim to destroy by burning. In the Old Testament, the term seraph is applied to fiery serpents. Numbers 21, 6-8 refers to fiery serpents sent by the Lord to bite and kill sinning Israelites. After Moses prayed for forgiveness, he was instructed to set a fiery serpent atop a pole. Whoever was bitten by it, when he looked upon it, would live. Moses made a bronze serpent, which may have been a representation of a seraph angel. Deuteronomy 8:15 refers to the fiery serpents and scorpions in the land of Egypt. 3 Enoch says that the seraphim are so named because they burn the tablets of Satan. Every day, Satan sits down with Samael, prince of Rome, and Dubiel, prince of Persia, to write down the sins of Israel on tablets. Satan gives the tablets to the seraphim to take to God so that God will destroy Israel. But the seraphim know that God does not wish to do so, and so they take the tablets and burn them. In the New Testament, Jesus acknowledged the wisdom of the serpent in his statement, quote, "Be ye, therefore, wise as serpents, and harmless as doves." And that's in Matthew 10:16. In Gnosticism, which is a dualistic sect, they considered the serpent as the Son of Man, the Savior himself, who initiates humankind into consciousness and raises them up out of a primitive, nature-identified unconsciousness. Gnostic teachings identify Jesus with the serpent in Eden because they were both condemned for giving humans more godlike status. So now that we are caught up with the correct context, what is the spiritual knowledge and freedom that Enki wanted to disseminate through the Brotherhood of the Snake? The most prevalent interpretation of serpent symbolism is that it means wisdom, but the symbolism has a deeper and much more complex meaning. It is essentially related to the complex nature of the human psyche, energy, and our body chemistry. The serpent is an expression of our higher and lower consciousness. In actual fact, the serpent is one of the keys to understanding transcendence to higher states of consciousness and how we tend to fall foul of our subconscious mind. But through the serpent, we can find wisdom to overcome our lower conscious self and discover the higher self, that aspect of our personalities that religions call God. At its deepest level, the serpent is a symbol of rebirth and renewal. Just as a snake sheds its skin, humans have the capacity to defeat old values that no longer serve us and develop improved values. We are able to do this by using the power of our innate wisdom, which enables us to attain self-knowledge and reach enlightenment. The snake is often associated with the underworld and depicts the demonic side of our nature, our base instincts that have been shaped by our experiences and arise from the subconscious mind. But depending on where it is placed within esoteric iconography and myth, the serpent also denotes our higher conscious state. In Hindu and Buddhism, for example, it is common to find a seven-headed serpent, the Naga, above the heads of the devas, This denotes enlightened beings, Buddhas. To add to this, the serpent represents the four elements, water, air, earth, and fire, which when combined and balanced emerged as the fifth element of spirit, or evil spirit, depending on the values you choose to adopt. Another representation of the serpent is the male and female energies that run up the spinal column of the body, the Pingala and Ida of the Kundalini energy. When the Kundalini is awakened, we are able to overcome challenges more easily and find the balance between duality and singularity. It is at this point when we return to the one true source and understand the meaning of oneness. It is the challenge of each of us to overcome the demonic serpent of our subconscious that leads us into temptation and fly with the mighty dragon of our higher consciousness so that we can experience the purification of body and mind that comes from absolute transcendence. Man is nature. Of that, there is little doubt. Nature is all around us, also not in doubt. Where it gets mystical is the notion that we are intrinsically connected with nature and to each other. The last statement cannot be proven by scientists. Not yet, at least, although some are trying. You therefore have to put some faith into the mysterious patterns in nature and the unexplainable. And the best person to ask about this is yourself. How many weird experiences have you had that cannot be explained, or in some cases do not want to admit it because it was too spiritual? The thing is we are pure consciousness, and the divine source we call God, Allah, Yahweh, the Absolute, and many other names, is where our pure consciousness comes from. And it is extremely important to understand that the Creator God of all is not an Anunnaki, Igigi, or any other Nibiruan. Our physical reality distorts this pure consciousness with the illusion of duality, the symbolic serpent which represents the good and bad aspects of our personality. Many of our viewers already know the chakra system and the Kundalini energy, and you have probably also seen this symbol, right? This is the caduceus that is most commonly associated with Mercury in Greek and Roman iconography. Before Mercury, the Egyptian god Thoth was depicted holding two intertwining snakes. And of course, you have learned from our previous presentations that Thoth is also known as Ningishzida, who is the son of Enki. Even in the early days of the church, the cross was featured with a snake wrapped around the wooden shaft. You may have also been familiar with Michelangelo's painting of Adam and Eve and the serpent. The painting featured on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel reveals the serpent tail is entwined around the trunk of the tree. Two serpents twine up the caduceus staff of Hermes, Mercury or Quicksilver, the classical god who escorts the souls of the dead and delivers messages to the gods. The caduceus is a symbol of enlightenment and of healing. In modern times, this symbol is used in the logos of medical associations such as the World Medical Association, the American Medical Association, and many other medical associations around the world. However, we are told it is the rod of Asclepius, the Greek god of medicine, but that is typically shown as a single snake around a shaft. Nevertheless, the Kundalini energy, an asset of pure consciousness, can be used for healing, learning, and revitalization. The ancients knew this, and it would seem so do modern institutions. The word Kundalini comes from the Sanskrit word meaning spiral and is often referred to as the coiled serpent. The energy can be released through yoga or meditation and spirals up the spinal column as depicted in the caduceus. The construction of the spine features two holes on either side which allows the energy to pass. The energy is known as Pingala and Ida, male and female energies respectively. Ida and Pingala are depicted as serpents in Hermetic symbolism, whilst the spinal column is the shaft or rod of caduceus. When you feel the prana energy of the kundalini, you physically feel it twisting up your back and into the crown chakra like the movements of a snake. Prana is the spiritual energy that resides in the base of the spine, which, when awakened, opens and clears the chakras and reconnects the individual with the divine source. In Hindu mythology, the serpent symbolizes the bringer of rain and fertility. Water purifies, and all creation is born out of the waters. When Krishna is rescued shortly after his birth, the 10-headed serpent Vasuki shelters the infant child from the rain. Thus, also recognizing the serpent symbolizes the protection enlightened beings have in life because they are connected to the true self. The symbol of the serpent was also prominent in ancient Egypt. Known as the uraeus, it was typically worn on the headdress of pharaohs. In the early years, the uraeus symbolized mastery of the kundalini and the self. Indeed, the Egyptians were also aware of the kundalini energy, and the serpent provided the symbolism to depict the two worlds of the physical and astral bodies. The story of Ra and Apep demonstrate the dual natures of our personality. Ra is the sun god, and the dark spirit that threatened to destroy him, Apep, takes the form of a serpent. It is the same meanings as the serpent we find in the Bible and myths of Mesoamerica. The need to overcome the habitual mind and suppress desires. When we are able to take control of thoughts and emotions, we are in control of our actions and thus can take more control of our lives. The serpent also represents good and evil in cultures from all corners of the globe. Legends stemming from Native American tribes of the Americas reflect this in their depiction of the plumed serpent, also referenced as the creator god and the god of the underworld. A prime example is the serpent god of the native Mesoamericans, Quetzalcoatl to the Aztecs, and Kukulkan to the Maya. The gods are typically depicted as a serpent or a dragon in iconography and are considered the primordial god of life, intelligence, and self-reflection. The Aztec creation story recounts Quetzalcoatl ventured into the underworld and brought dead bones to life by dipping his own blood onto them. In other words, he makes a sacrifice. The snake deity Kukulkan is most famously depicted on the staircase of El Castillo in the ancient Mayan settlement of Chichen Itza. On the equinoxes, the plumed serpent appears as a shadow on the temple wall, venturing down in the winter and returning upwards in the spring. The symbolism reflects the death and rebirth of the sun and its orbits around the earth, and is where the U.S. gets the seasonal names fall and spring. It also reflects the rise and fall of mankind during the course of our lifetimes. You will also find this idea of death and rebirth expressed in symbolism with the dragon or serpent devouring its own tail. Quetzalcoatl is reflected in this way. So, we have learned that serpents are powerful, magical, and mystical creatures. They are universal symbols of renewal and rebirth because of their unique ability to shed their own skin for new. The serpent that forms a circle by biting its own tail symbolizes the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth. In its carnal aspect, the serpent represents a phallus and its associations of the life force, sexuality, and sensuality. As a phallic symbol, the serpent often is associated with pregnancy in imagery and mythology. As a creature that crawls along the earth and lives in holes in the ground, the serpent has connections to the underworld, the unconscious, and humankind's instinctual drives. Mythical serpents guard the sleep of both the living and the dead. Thus, they are creatures at the gateway to new consciousness. The serpent also is a universal companion to goddesses and thus can symbolize the feminine, the anima, the womb, intuition, emotion, and all the aspects of the Great Mother. The coils of the serpent represent the cycles of manifestation, life and death, good and evil, wisdom and blind passion, light and dark, healing and poison, protection and destruction. The Kundalini, as a psychic force, called the serpent power, resides coiled near the base of the spine. In spiritual transformation, the energy rises up the spine to the crown chakra. The appearance of serpents in one's life can accompany the rising of Kundalini energy. The serpent represents great power indicating change, renewal, and transformation. Carl Jung considered the serpent to represent a potent archetype of psychic energy, power, dynamism, instinctual drive, and the entire process of psychic and spiritual transformation. When serpents appear, they may indicate a transformative process that is already underway, or they call attention to the need to move to a new level of consciousness. Serpents also are associated with water, the symbol of the unconscious, and trees, the symbol of wisdom and knowledge. All of this symbolism represents the knowledge that Enki wanted humans to possess and the very reason for the creation of the Brotherhood of the Snake. Unfortunately, the effort was corrupted very early on, and as we stated earlier, the Brotherhood was turned into a chilling weapon of spiritual repression and betrayal, despite the efforts of many sincere humanitarians to bring about true spiritual reform through Brotherhood channels all the way up till today.